The reunions you are about to see show that they can recognize faces, remember voices, and demonstrate a depth of longing few people imagine is possible. Get ready to witness some of the most moving reunions ever recorded between animals and the people who changed their lives. Number 1. The duck that chose a human. Ducks often form lifelong bonds. That is why many people believed this swan would never form such a strong connection with a person. But after being rescued at a young age, he came to view that man as part of his own family. Whenever the two reunited, the reaction was the same. The swan would run toward him, spread his wings, and welcome him as if greeting an old companion after a long journey. To him, that man was never just a visitor. He was someone he never forgot. Number 2. The dog that found its owner again. During an emergency evacuation, a dog became separated from its owner. Days passed, then weeks went by, and no one knew if they would ever see each other again. Meanwhile, military personnel cared for the animal until they finally managed to locate its true owner. The moment they came face to face, there was no doubt. The dog immediately recognized the person it had been looking for. Wagging its tail incessantly, it seemed to want to tell the whole story of what it had experienced during that time apart. Number 3. The chimpanzee who never forgot his human mother. When he was just an infant, this chimpanzee was rescued by a family. They fed him, cared for him, and raised him as if he were their own child. Time passed, and he had to live apart from them. Many imagined that years of separation would be enough to erase that memory, but it took only a few seconds to prove otherwise. As soon as he saw his adoptive mother again, he ran toward her and hugged her as if no time had passed at all. Number 4. The bird that returned every day. Out at sea, a sailor found a small sparrow that was completely exhausted. Without help, it likely wouldn't have survived. After being cared for and regaining its strength, the bird was released back into the wild. It seemed like the story was over, but something unexpected happened. In the days that followed, the little visitor began returning to the ship, and it kept doing so repeatedly. It was as if it were thanking the person who had given it a second chance. Number 5. The fox that cried tears of joy. After a long time away from the man who raised her, this fox finally had the chance to see him again. As soon as she realized who was standing before her, she began making high-pitched sounds, jumping for joy and wagging her body, unable to contain her emotion. Few people imagine that foxes can show such joy, but that reunion made it clear. Number 6. Chimpanzees that waited 14 years. For years, these chimpanzees lived in captivity, used for research purposes. When they were finally rescued, a woman dedicated years of her life to teaching them how to live in freedom again. After that, they went their separate ways. 14 years passed. One might imagine they would have forgotten that woman by then, but the moment she returned, they all ran to hug her. Some even wept with emotion. It was impossible to watch the scene without realizing that the bond was still alive. Number 7. The horse that waited 8 years. An injury forced this young woman to give up the sport she loved most. The result was a long separation from the horse that had grown up alongside her. 8 years later, she decided to visit him again. As soon as he heard her voice, the animal lifted his head and walked quickly toward her. A few seconds later, the two were together again, as if none of those years had ever passed. Number 8. The elephant that ran for a hug. Elephants have extraordinary memories, and this reunion showed exactly why. After months apart from his best friend, this huge animal recognized him from a distance. Without hesitation, he ran toward him. When he finally got close, he wrapped his trunk around the man in a hug that seemed to last an eternity. Number 9. The tiger that saw a father. Weighing over 200 kilograms, this tiger could easily frighten anyone. But upon reuniting with the man who had raised him since he was a cub, his reaction was completely different. He ran toward his caretaker and threw himself upon him, not to attack, but to hug him. A scene that shows how some bonds completely transcend fear. Number 10. The dog that refused to forget. When his owner was hospitalized for over a year, this dog kept waiting, every day, in the same spot, until, finally, the door opened. As soon as he recognized that familiar face, he came running. After so many months apart, it took just a second for everything to go back to the way it was. These reunions show that many animals are capable of forming deep bonds, recognizing people even after years, and displaying emotions we often underestimate. Perhaps the greatest proof of love isn't found in words, but in the way an animal runs to meet someone who never stopped being part of its memory.